the 6th National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-ELCAC, Executive Committee Meeting Press Conference. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. earlier presided over the EXACOM meeting and was presented with a National Action Plan for Unity, Peace, and Development. And to discuss this plan and other items on the agenda during the meeting, we have with us today Executive Director of the NTF-ELCAC, Undersecretary Ernesto Torres Jr., Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief of Staff General Romeo Bronner Jr., Office of the Solicitor General Attorney James Clifford Santos, and Chairperson of the National Amnesty Commission, Lea Tanodra Armamento. Good afternoon. I think we have an announcement from Undersecretary Torres.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us here at the press conference to share with you what was discussed earlier during the 6th Executive Committee meeting of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, which was presided by the chairman himself, His Excellency President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. Also in attendance, of course, is the Vice Chair of the NTF-ELCAC, the National Security Advisor, Secretary Eduardo Año. The Executive Secretary, Bersamin, was also there together with the SAP Lagdameo and the secretaries of the different member agencies of the NTF-ELCAC or their representatives and other partners. So among the things that were discussed this morning, which we would we would share with you today, are the following. The draft of the National Action Plan for Unity, Peace, and Development. And then we will be announcing also the new Cabinet Officer for Regional Development and Security, or CORDS, for Regions 2, NCR, and Region 8. And the designation, of course, of Secretary Tereso Magno as CORDS of Region 11. He being designated now as the chairman or chairperson of the Mindanao Development Authority, coming from his position as Presidential Advisor for Eastern Mindanao Command. Also discussed our concerns and issues about the barangay development program's implementation, to include its funding, and we also gave an update to the executive committee on the implementation of the program. Also, it was approved by the President the inclusion of the Coordinating Council for Private Educational Association, or COCOPEA, as one of the two private representatives to be an official member of the NTF-ELCAC. So COCOPEA a while ago was represented by Father Albert Delbo. Well, just for the information of everybody, under COCOPEA are at least 1,500 private schools all over the country. Then we also discussed some of the concerns and challenges that the National Amnesty Commission is facing, and some recommendations based from the discussions were agreed upon. And of course, the chairperson is here with us in this press conference, and she would also be sharing with you the important points during that discussion. So those are the agenda items that were discussed, but in addition to that, a briefing on the situation of the our counterinsurgency campaign was presented by no less than the Director General of the NICA, DG Ricardo De Leon. And then an oath-taking ensued also after the approval of the designation of the CORDS and the members of the executive committee. So we are also fortunate that we have in that meeting this morning the AFP Chief of Staff, of course, with the Chief of the Philippine National Police, represented by Brigadier General Salvador. So for this afternoon's press conference, we are likewise happy to have the head office of the Legal Cooperation Cluster, no, headed by Justice Angie Miranda, ably represented here by Attorney Clifford Santos. So with that as a broad backgrounder, we are now ready for any questions coming from our friends in the media. Thank you very much.
Okay. Harley Valbuena, DZME.
Thank you, Ms. Daphne. Good afternoon. Sir, with the inclusion of Cocopea in the NTF-ELCAC, are we expecting an enhancement of our campaigns against insurgency or anti-communist ideologies in our schools or the member schools of Cocopea?
Thank you, Harley, for that question. Yeah, as I have mentioned a while ago, Cocopea or SEAP has a membership of at least 1,500 public, private, Catholic private schools all over the country. So it would broaden the base of our information awareness campaign and information and education campaign pertaining to matters related to the terror grooming of organizations like the CPP, NPA, NDF, which is, by the way, a designated terrorist organization as per our Anti-Terror Act.
Eden Santos, Net 25.
Good afternoon, sir. Gusto lang po namin munang malaman gaano pa ba yung strength nitong mga CPP, NPA na ito. Tapos nalalapit na rin po yung halalan. Meron pa rin ba sila yung mga activities gaya ng ginagawa nila before na kabilang po dun sa ating mga concern na tinututukan pa rin until now?
Thank you, Eden. Kinalabit ako ni Yusek Torres dito sa ilalim. So anyway, in terms of the strength of the New People's Army, ay talagang mahinang-mahina na sila. So they only have about 1,111 fighters left from the 2,200 last year. So that is a big reduction in their manpower. And in terms of firearms, ganun rin po yung reduction nila. About 1,000 firearms have been reduced. So in terms of the guerrilla fronts, earlier, about 3 months ago, we reported that there were 7 remaining weakened guerrilla fronts. Now there are only 4. 4 na lang po. And we are expecting that by the end of the year, we will have finished all the guerrilla fronts. We will have reduced them to 0.
Okay.
Ano po yung 4 na yon na tatapusin ninyo within this year?
Yung mga guerrilla fronts natin, 2 ang naiwan na lang dito sa Northern Luzon. Isa po dito sa Southern Luzon area at isa dito sa Visayas area. No?
Ano yung mga pangalan po ng mga guerrilla fronts?
Ako, hindi ko dala yung... Yes.
4 yun, kasamang Eden.
Yeah.
We have Weekend Guerrilla Front North Abra.
Yun.
Then we have Weekend Guerrilla Front Baggas, both in Cordillera Administrative Region. Then we have KLG-1 in the Bicol region, and Central Front, Weekend Guerrilla Front, Central Front in Negros Occidental. But as the AFP have submitted to us, 3 of those are already for validation. to be dismantled.
Yes.
So we are very optimistic that upon official validation, we would only be confronting one weekend guerrilla front. So what is very important to note is that from the start of the NTF-ELCAC in December of 2018, we had 89 active guerrilla fronts all over the country. And if we are to consider active guerrilla fronts, we now have 0 guerrilla fronts. And we thank the public for that, no? Because prior to that, it was only the security sector, primarily, no, AFP and PNP, who were taking the cudgels of resolving our insurgency problem. But when we finally got our acts together and committed to the whole of nation approach, whole of government participation, founded on good governance, we were able really to do the almost impossible at that time. So on the average, if you will do the math, 17 guerrilla fronts have been dismantled per year. And when we were still in the active service, just to further contextualize why I said that it is almost impossible, there were years that only 1-2 guerrilla fronts are being dismantled in a particular year. But with this mechanism that we have, we were able, and with the help of everybody, including our friends from the media, in disseminating important information and programs of the government, and to make the insurgents feel that there is a government that cares for them, we were able to turn the tide in favor of the government. And yes, we have 0 active guerrilla fronts, and upon the official validation of the armed forces of the Philippines and our security sector, we are hopeful that towards the end of this year, and we are praying that there will be no more weekend guerrilla fronts that that would be confronted at the start of next year. Thank you.
Let me answer the second part of Eden's question about their activities in relation to elections. Alam nyo po yung natitirang 1,111 fighters, most of them want to surrender already. However, what is preventing them from doing so is the elections, the midterm elections of next year. No? May mga nakausap kami ng mga rebel attorneys. Sabi namin, kausapin niyo yung mga kasamahan niyo na mag-surrender na. No? Sabi nila, sir, gusto sana nilang mag-surrender pero elections next year. Oo, so i-delay na lang muna nila yung pag-surrender nila. No? Anong kinalaman? Well, they always have this scheme, no? Money-making scheme. Nangongolekta sila ng permit to campaign at permit to win, no? Kaya po, ang pakiusap namin sa ating mga kandidato ay huwag pong magbayad ng permit to campaign or permit to win sa kahit na sino mang miyembro ng New People's Army or yung mga nagpapanggap na miyembro ng New People's Army. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is Tuesday New, DZBB. Please pass. Eden.
Hi, sirs and ma'am. To follow up lang, sir, kay Chief of Staff, General Browner, sir. Sabi nyo ay at bago matapos ang taon, hopefully matapos na rin itong mga weekend guerrilla fronts natin. If that is the case, sir, I understand yung NTF-ELCAC was created under Executive Order 70 para ma-stop yung local armed conflict. So kapag wala na tayong local armed conflict, ano pang magiging silbi po ng NTF-ELCAC? Ito po ba ay i-abolish o kayo ba ay isi-shift into another commission or group?
Thank you. Well, when we say that there will be 0 guerrilla fronts by the end of the year, hindi po ibig sabihin nito ay wala nang matitirang mga fighters. We are expecting that there will still be vertical units. So may mga matitira pang mga armado na ang nangyayari ngayon ay nagtitipon-tipon sila, nagugrupo-grupo sila. Dahil halos kokonti na lang po yung mga natitira. So they group themselves into bigger formations so that they could attack probably mga detachments natin and so on. Pero talagang mahina na sila. So by next year, we are expecting na meron pa rin. Magkakaroon pa rin ng mga encounters next year. Pero hindi na po sila talagang makakapag-extort ng pera. Hindi na po sila makakapag-influence ng mga communities natin. And that is the more important thing. No? But as to the other question, I will leave that to Yusek Torres as to what will happen to the NTF-ELCAC.
Thank you, Chief of Staff, for allowing me to answer that difficult question. Well, to answer Tuesday, we have to remember that the more difficult part in our counterinsurgency campaign is the sustainment of our peace gains. We cannot afford to allow them that opportunity to recover. That's why we all have to continue working together as a nation in order to sustain our peace gains. So, and part of our effort at the NTF-ELCAC is to review our campaign plan and program. And we've been doing that for the past year. That's why we arrived at the draft that we presented to the chairman, our president, His Excellency President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. a while ago, the final draft of the National Action Plan for Unity, Peace, and Development, which is more focused on socio-economic development rather than on security operations or campaign. But it is not to say na sineset aside na natin kasi kailangan talaga natin pa rin to have a secured environment for us to be able to proceed with our various developmental efforts, para mai-implement natin ng maigi. Let us always be reminded, and this is always what I share to the public, lasting peace is the price of eternal vigilance. So we have to continue working together to be more vigilant, even if we have already severely degraded their capability to conduct violent actions or terrorism. We have to be continuously vigilant and supportive of the different socio-economic development programs of the government. And that is practically what the NAP-UPD or National Action Plan for Unity, Peace, and Development is geared towards. And I also would like to make mention that we are already reaching the final stage of counter-insurgency campaign on matters related to their armed component. And we are very lucky that last year, the President was signed the Amnesty Proclamation. So yung pong ating National Amnesty Commission is very much at the forefront of the implementation of the amnesty program. In fact, as we speak now, there are 971 former CTG or former members of the CPP-NPA who have already submitted their application for amnesty. So, all over the country, meron na po tayong mga local amnesty boards, and one of the topic that was discussed earlier, of course, is related to that. And sorry ma'am, but I think it would be better for the chairperson to elaborate further on the actions of the National Amnesty Commission, if that would be required by Ms. Tuesday. Thank you.
Sir, pwede bang bago tayo lumipat kay ma'am, gusto ko lang malaman, magkakaroon ba ng panibagong issuance ng executive order para i-amend yung EO70 creating the NTF-ELCAC tapos transition into NAP-UPD?
Well, that is one of the considerations also. But what happened this morning is just the presentation of how we would recalibrate the program from a campaign that is more focused on security to a campaign that is more focused now on socioeconomic development. So it was approved by the president, but as to the rebranding or issuance of another executive order, it would be a subject of another discussion at the moment. Thank you, Tuesday.
Did we want to hear from, the amnesty? Yeah, Chairperson Arman Mento.
Thank you very much, Ms. Daphne. We are highly satisfied with the outcome of today's meeting with the President because the President approved our request that the National Amnesty Commission be given the authority to issue safe conduct pass because our applicants, most of them have warrant of arrest and they cannot go to our offices to file their application. So our game plan is to go to them, but sometimes we cannot access them because they are in the mountains, they are in hiding. So the issuance of the President of the approval of the President to issue for the National Amnesty Commission to issue a safe conduct pass is very timely, and it is much needed by the National Amnesty Commission to perform its work effectively. And then also the President approved the creation of additional 10 local amnesty board, 6 in Luzon, additional 2 in Visayas, and additional 2 in Mindanao. And then he also committed to appoint 1 new commissioner because we are lacking of 1 commissioner because he recently died. So he committed to that. And I am very thankful to the NTF-ELCAC for raising these issues before the President. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have another question from Bernal, CNA. Buena, I'm sorry.
In your analysis, sir, what is the impact of the arrest of Mr. Wigberto Villarico on the operations of the New People's Army? And then I'll follow up later.
Yes, definitely this has a very big impact in terms of reducing the unity of command of the New People's Army because he is considered the acting chairperson of the committee. So this has a big impact. In fact, nawawalan na po sila ng mga senior leaders. That is why we noticed that even the units, yung mga New People's Army units on the ground are not unified in their actions.
And sir, every year, this is a familiar refrain. We always hear that the Philippine military will end the communist insurgency this year. It feels like a repeated New Year's resolution in the past half a century for the military. What makes this year different that you project in the next year you can declare victory over the New People's Army?
Well, then again, we consider the NTF-ELCAC and the Executive Order 70 very successful. So when government agencies and the whole of the nation come together for a specific objective, and in this case, the ending of the local terrorist group or the local armed conflict, then we get results better. No? Yes, I understand that every year we have this. For us in the armed forces, it's important that we set targets for ourselves. So even if people say, paulit-ulit yan, pa-extend lang naman yan. No? But for us in the armed forces, it's very important because when we set targets, our units, our soldiers on the ground have that desire to meet their targets. And if we don't meet the target, at least we have achieved a lot in terms of the mission that we set out to do.
Okay. Jean Mangaluz, Philippine Star.
Okay. Sir, correct me if I'm wrong, pero can private schools under COCOPEA expect anti-terrorism lectures soon?
Well, with the COCOPEA's inclusion as the part of the executive committee of the NTF-ELCAC, there will be, as I've mentioned earlier, a broader base for the information awareness campaign of the government, actually, no, for them to know the truth about the designated groups, the designated terrorist organization and personalities, so that they would have an informed choice as to whether or not they would join certain organizations. So it is more of a possibility of putting forth the information about the terror grooming scheme of the CPP, NPA, NTF, and other terrorist organization in our country. Again, for the students specifically to be able to exercise their right to an informed choice, and a choice that would not harm themselves, their school, their family, their community, and our country, so that it would be fair with them. It is actually our constitutional mandate to serve and protect the Filipino people, to include the students, no? And part of really protecting them is providing them the right information about questionable organizations and personalities for them to protect themselves.
But how do you address concerns of red tagging, especially with the Supreme Court ruling defining what it is? It is quite, it is a threat.
I would like to answer that question, but we have a representative here from our legal cooperation cluster of the NTF-ELCAC, and I guess with the permission of our moderator, he would be in the best position, Attorney Cliff Santos, to answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusek. So with regard to the issue of red tagging, first, it is the official position of the government that red tagging is legally inconsistent. It is an invention of the CPP, NPA, NDF to demonize and to put a bad picture on the unmasking of the government of the real identities of the affiliates of the CPP, NPA, NDF. And you also raised the decision of the Supreme Court in De Duro versus Vinoya. We are very well aware of that decision, but it is also our position, as far as the LCC is concerned, that the statement of the Supreme Court on red tagging is an obiter dictum. Because if you are going to look at the case of De Duro, it is a resolution of the court in response to a petition for writ of amparo. The decision does not dispose the case on the merits. Rather, it remands the case back to the Regional Trial Court of Iloilo to litigate the case once again, because part of the issue there was the denial of due process on the part of the state, which failed to present its evidence to exculpate themselves from the allegations of the petitioner. That said, since the case does not dispose the issue on the issuance of the writ of amparo on the merits, our position is that the statement of the court on red tagging is a mere obiter dictum that is not binding on succeeding cases. And that is, and in fact, if you are also going to analyze the statement of the court there in De Duro, it reaffirms the long-standing position of the government that mere membership in the red organizations or their affiliates does not constitute a threat against life, liberty, and security.
Thank you. Chona, you, Philippine People's Journal.
Sir, just a quick follow-up on Jean's question. What are the dynamics dun sa partnership ng NTF-ELCAC sa COCOPEA? Who will inform the students? Will it be the teachers alone, or papasok yung mga sundalo sa mga private schools to inform the students sa anti-terrorism?
First, we have to recall that the NTF-ELCAC is not just the military. There are 32 member agencies in the NTF-ELCAC. Almost all the departments are members of the NTF-ELCAC, and now with two private private representatives in the NTF-ELCAC. And we have 12 clusters. One is the legal cooperation cluster, basic services cluster, strategic communication cluster. We also have the situational awareness and acknowledgement cluster. What else? Infrastructure resource management cluster. I'll see if I can remember the 12. The PRLEC, poverty reduction, livelihood enhancement cluster. Then and many more other clusters, no? And the information awareness campaign basically lies on two of the clusters. One is the situational awareness and acknowledgement cluster, which is headed by the NICA, and the strategic communication cluster, which is co-headed by the PCO and the National Security Council. So, COCOPEA will be one of the members in these clusters, and the cluster would be the one to craft on how to effectively launch a rules-based, human rights-based approach in really unmasking the truth about the CPP, NPA, NDF.
Thank you. Okay.
Another issue, sir. Balikan ko lang yung 2,200 fighters from last year to 1,000 this year.
1,100, yeah.
Ano pong nangyari sa 1,000? Were they neutralized or did they surrender sa government?
Most of these are surrenderies. A few of them were neutralized through encounters. Sa ngayon kasi, although every now and then may naririnig tayong mga encounters, but usually the encounters last for about 5 to 10 minutes only before the New People's Army disengage. Nakikita namin dito, halos wala na po silang mga bala, no? And then their fighters are those who are left are also the ones not trained anymore. Parang ito na yung mga baguhan. So most of the 1,000 who were in the reduction in the number were surrenderies.
Sir, sabi niyo po kanina, yung more than 1,000 fighters na natitira, they want to surrender pero dahil may election, kaya ayaw na muna nilang mag-surrender. What will the government do about it? Will there be an intensified operation para hindi na makapanggulo itong mga natitirang fighters sa susunod na eleksyon?
Yes, tuloy-tuloy po yung ating operations, yung combat operations natin. But more than the combat operations is the program of the government to entice them to come back to the folds of the law. No, magbalik na lang sila nang sa gayon, ang sinasabi namin sa kanila, malapit na yung Pasko. No? At mas maganda na magbalik loob kayo and then para makasama ninyo yung mga mahal nyo sa buhay. They will also be receiving benefits from the government under the ECLIP program, the Enhanced Comprehensive Local Integration Program. No? So yun po yung programa ng ating gobyerno. While we are doing the combat operations on one side, we are also convincing them. We're offering them to come back. And we are also, as I mentioned earlier, offering amnesty.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a rejoinder?
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Daphne. Yes, although it is always a possibility that they will make use of this election to extort money, like from permit to win, permit to campaign scheme. Just looking at what transpired in the last election, there were actually very insignificant reports, no, of them being able to extort money from the public, no, under the scheme of permit to win and permit to campaign, because again, everybody is helping each other to protect ourselves from getting getting abused by the schemes, different schemes, extortion schemes of the CPP, NP, NDF. Kaya ngayon, we are again appealing to the public na ngayon po magkaka-election tayo. We have already mechanisms on reporting properly if there are such cases of extortion demands from the CPP, NPA, NDF that are related to the election. And then when it is properly reported to the concerned agencies, they are acted upon, and thus it would deter any effort, no, from the CPP, NPA from extorting money again as part of the resource generation or personal resource generation nila, no, for us to be able to frustrate them in doing those. So that's just our call to the public this coming election.
Thank you. We go to Mikhail Flores of Reuters.
Thank you. Yusek Torres, it's been almost a year since the Joint Vision for Peace was signed in Oslo. I wonder if peace talks remain an option under the National Action Plan, considering that the government and the military have significantly weakened the armed wing of the CPP, NPA, NTF. And to General Bronner, with your intelligence, I hope we can also briefly get your outlook on the security alliance with the U.S. Under a Trump presidency.
Yes, we are very much aware of that Oslo communique. Are you referring to that, which was inked last year, November of last year? So we are optimistic still, that such peace effort would finally lead to a final peace settlement with the CPP, NPA, and DF. But as to the nitty-gritty details on how it is proceeding, there are just some selected personalities who are into it. But at the moment, what we are getting at the NTF-ELCAC, particularly at the National Secretariat, we are of the understanding that a new framework would be defined for us to be able to proceed with the nationally orchestrated peace engagement. So I think that is all that I can share at the moment. But the local peace engagement is very much continuing. Meaning, yung effort, again, it is headed by the OPAPRO and other member agencies. We are collaborating with the local chief executives, the communities, to be able to reach out dun sa mga nandun pa po sa bundok, explaining to them clearly on what the programs of the government are for them to be convinced to return to the folds of the law and be reintegrated back to mainstream society. So, in summary, we are hopeful that there will be a final peace settlement agreement as a result of the Oslo Joint Communique, but efforts at the local level has been continuing under the local peace efforts, no, under the LPE cluster of the NTF-ELCAC.
Thank you. General Bronner?
Yes, as to the second part of your question, we at the Armed Forces of the Philippines are optimistic that the relationship of the Armed Forces of the Philippines with the military of the United States will remain robust and strong. The reason why I say this is because of the existence of several agreements, the MDT being one, Mutual Defense Treaty. And aside from that, we share a long history of defense cooperation with the United States. We fought together during the World War II. They have continued to support us against in our campaign against terrorism, even against now, against the other threats that we are facing in the region. They still continue to support us. And aside from that, there were several statements that were given by U.S. officials even prior to the election, stating that the United States would continue to support us in terms of the defense cooperation that we have, regardless of who wins the election. So we're still very optimistic.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a very quick follow-up kay Yusek Torres. So in terms of you mentioned the national framework. So is that a framework agreement already in terms of where the peace talks discussions are going, similar to the framework agreement on the Bangsamoro in 2014? And what's the timetable that you're looking at and having that kind of national framework finally being agreed upon by both panels?
What I was referring to are the, when I say framework, are the basis of both the GRP and the NDFP for proceeding with the possibility of having a peace talk. Peace talk. Because there were parameters before that were being followed, or there are certain agreements before prior to this Oslo communique and prior to its termination in 2017, yung peace talks natin, ano. And those things, although consistently being mentioned by some sectors belonging to the CPP, NPA, NDF group, no, we are of the belief that those earlier parameters would not be the same as that with the new framework that's being crafted. Okay. Thank you.
Harley Valbuena, again.
Hi again, sirs. Ma'am, since we are already talking about the election, may we get the stand of the NTF-ELCAC on the proposed postponement of the 2025 BARM parliamentary elections?
Sorry, Harley, NTF-ELCAC kasi only concerns about the CTGs or the CPP, NPA, NDF, and we are not privy to decisions related to the concerns about BARM.
Okay, let's.
Sir, but do you think that if the postponement pushes through, it might result to rise of some insurgent or resistance groups, since some local executives are already opposing it?
So again, Harley, I have my own personal opinion on that, but of course, as the head of the National Secretariat of the NTF-ELCAC, probably I can just share it with you in confidence for now, because again, my task is only covers matters pertaining to the CPP, NPA, NDF. I'm really sorry, Harley.
Thank you. Question from Ann Soberano over here, Bombo Radio.
Sir, good afternoon. Sir, balik ko lang, pinalawak nyo pa yung information campaign sa mga estudyante, hindi lang po sa mga public schools. Ngayon, pinasok nyo na po yung mga private schools. Ibig sabihin ba, sir, na lumalakas din ang recruitment ng CPP, NPA, NDF sa private schools ng mga estudyante? Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, again, gusto ko lang banggitin yung binanggit ko kanina. Lasting peace is the price of eternal vigilance. So for us, as part of our eternal vigilance that we are referring to, is continuous flow of the right information to the general public, not only to the students, but especially to the sectors that are most vulnerable. Most vulnerable to getting exploited or radicalized. No, this is a democratic country, of course, but we would like to put across the right information again for the Filipino people to have to be able to exercise their right to uninformed choice. Hindi naman po pwede na yung basis ng information nila is through deception or mga untruths about certain organization and personalities, no? So we have to give them the right information so that they can decide for themselves they can make that choice that would not harm anybody. So again, the membership of COCOPEA would broaden that base of information awareness campaign to better protect these students and the Filipino people.
Pero wala kayong monitor, sir, na may recruitment.
Well, again, ang CPP, NPA, NDF, they are very, very persistent in their efforts. So we are not discounting the fact that they continue to recover. They would attempt to recover their lost mass bases, ika nga. They will still attempt to recruit, but with what we have now, as we have briefed, as we were briefed earlier, they do not have the capacity not only to generate funds, but pati yung recruitment po nila ay hindi na rin po ganun kalakas, ano? That is our latest assessment coming from the security sector as well.
Go ahead, sir.
May I just add one thing? One thing good that came out of COVID-19, hindi bumaba yung recruitment nila sa mga schools.
Okay. All right. I think
Just make
yes.
kasi we might miss this, no? Yung mga pangalan po ng mga bagong chords.
Okay.
Hindi ko yata nabanggit kanina sa opening statement. If I may, Cords is the Cabinet Officer for Regional Development and Security, and there were 3 vacant Cords position due to the resignation of the following dun sa Region 2 because nag-resign si Secretary Secretary Pascual. I'm sorry, nabakante yon, so we do not have Cords for Region 2. Tapos NCR dahil tumakbo for an elective post si Secretary Mangudadatu. And then Region 8, si Secretary Abalos, alam naman natin, nag-resign na rin siya. So bakante yung 3 Cords for the 3 regions. Yung Cords po, sila ang they are the ones responsible for collaborating the efforts of the Regional Peace and Order Council and the Regional Development Council for it to contribute in the resolution of the root causes of insurgency. Kasama na yung poverty, delivery of basic services, livelihood opportunities. Yun po yung function nun. And they being the cabinet secretaries, they get to meet the president regularly. Kaya yung mga concern dun sa regions ay naipaabot kaagad nila diretso sa presidente and with their colleagues in their fellow cabinet secretaries. So very important na ma-fill up po yung position ng Cords dun sa 3 region. And it was approved by the president a while ago, and they even took their oath before the meeting ended this morning. And they are the following. For Cords Region 2, we have DMW Secretary Hans Leo J. Kakdak. For Cords NCR, we now have DILG Secretary John Vic Rimulya Jr. And for Cords of Region 8, we have DepEd Secretary Juan Edgardo Angara. Also, Secretary Tereso Magno, the former Presidential Assistant for Eastern Mindanao, now designated as the chairperson of the Mindanao Development Authority, was reappointed as the Cords of Region 11. So, yun lang po. Thank you, Madam Operator.
Thank you.
Moderator.
Okay. Thank you so much for all the updates from the NTF-ELCAC and, of course, the efforts towards lasting peace. Thank you, Undersecretary Torres, General Bronner, Attorney Santos, and Chairperson Arnamento. And thank you, Malacanang Press Corps. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.